Thanks, Chair. We've got a step change now. It's not going to be Tilly, and it will be Ms. Masike. Thank you very much.
Okay. Madam Masike, if you can take us through the presentation, please, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair.
Before we do though, Mrs. Chotro, do you want to introduce this, or are you comfortable, Madam Masike will introduce it? You don't want to say anything before she speaks?
No, Chair, I really believe in the skills.
Yeah, I do too. It wasn't a doubt. It was. Thank you, Madam Masike. Please proceed, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, board members. Good morning, management. Good morning, colleagues. The submission before us is about the approval of the consultation paper for Eskom's revenue application for the financial year 23-24 in line with the High Court judgment. We are asking the board to approve the consultation paper, to also approve the publication of the consultation paper together with the application, as well as the revised assumption that were submitted by Eskom in January 2022. We are also then asking ELS to ask ER to note the consultation paper. Chairperson, the ELS is delegated to approve publication of this consultation paper. We have received, we've got two different court cases. The one is the review of the 69 billion. You would remember that last year we processed the 10 billion, and there's the balance of the 59 billion, which must still be allowed to Eskom. So we've got a settlement offer that indicates that over and above the revenues approved for Eskom, 15 billion must be allowed per year for the next 4 years. And then the other court order has indicated that we need to process the MIPD5 application, which was submitted on the 2nd of June 2021 using the existing methodology, but for only 23-24. And then the remaining year will be dealt with once the EPDM has been finalized. So what we are proposing is the court requires us to complete the processing of the application by 24 December, but we are proposing that we publish on Friday the 29th. The requirement is 1st of August. And then we will have public hearings on the 8th of September. And also, on the 19th of September. From the 8th of September, it will be, it will be the closing date. Sorry, apologies for that. My system keeps on hanging. Sorry. The 8th of September will be the closing. Once we publish on the 29th of September, we'll give stakeholders 30 days to submit their written comments. We will have public hearings from 19th to 23rd of September 2022. And we anticipate that the ER decision would be made on the 7th of November. I'm going to skip the legal process because I believe Ms. Dlamini is here. We'll talk to the legal issues. The proposed indicative timelines for processing are on Section 7, and the recommendations are on Section 16, where 16.1.1 says we are asking the ELS to approve the consultation paper on the MIPD5. We will publish the entire application as it was submitted because it has 22-23, which has been dealt with, and we are only dealing with 23-24. 24-25 will be dealt with later, but we're publishing the entire application. And then we are also asking the board to approve consultation paper together with the publication of the consultation paper together with the application as well as the revised assumptions, and also to ask the ER to note. Thank you, Chair. I'll stop there.
Thank you. And maybe just before we open up to members, just to add that maybe to clarify the issue of the 59 billion, that as you know, this is a revenue application, and any court orders will then be added on top of that, and any approved RCAs would also be added onto whatever revenue that would be approved for the financial year 23-24. So which is why the importance of the court order. But the court order was, if you recall, was that ordinarily we were supposed to have added, in the current year we should have added 23 billion, and the next year we should have added 23 billion. However, through negotiations, the settlement was that we could then add 15 billion over 4 years, starting from next year, from the financial year 23-24. There was a settlement. So instead of adding 23 billion, we only had 15 billion. However, we still also need to have, we've got two RCAs, one that has been approved by the energy regulator already, just not the liquidation thereof has not been agreed. That whatever amount that needs to be liquidated will also need to be added. And we also have an outstanding RCA that still needs to be considered. That also would be considered in terms of what's going to be allowed, as well as also how it's going to be liquidated. And if there's any amount that in respect of liquidation that needs to be liquidated in the financial year 23-24, that also needs to be added. So in the consultation, I think the consultation is only in respect of the revenue application. And clearly, because it was a multi-year application, as indicated on page, that application on table 2, that was the multi-year application that was applied for. The base would have changed because what was approved in the FY23, as indicated there, or 22-23, the actual approved amount in terms of the revenue is different, and therefore that's Eskom would be required during the consultation, or during the consultation as well as during the public hearings, would be requested to update as it's actually done officially. So it would be requested to update the table. But I thought I would just bring that into the vote, the importance of the 59 billion and also any other RCA. Thank you. With that, members, can I open the discussion to the members and open the members to actually ask questions? Madam Seti, you go first now.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to Ms. Masike for the introduction of this submission. Chairperson, I've got a couple of comments, and some of them are just meant to just clarify and perhaps just enhance the submission before us. I want to start off with the title of the document, where we say this application is in accordance with the High Court ruling. I mean, why do we have to include that? What is the harm if we leave out that part where we say in accordance with the High Court judgment? Because whether there was a judgment or not, and in fact the judgment affects only part 1, the fact of the matter is that we have an application before us, which we received in June last year, and it's a multi-year, and we had an issue with it, and which issue was that we needed to use a different methodology, and therefore, without considering the application, we rejected it. So that is the first thing. So we know that we don't have a new methodology to can apply in this application. We're using the old methodology, irrespective of what the court had said. So we must process the application that is before us. So we're not just processing it because the court says we must, or maybe we did not go well with part 2 of that review application. So I just thought we just need to just process it as it is an application that is before us. And then the second thing, Chairperson, that I am concerned about, and we need to just clarify it. We have a multi-year application before us, 2022, 2023, and 2024. I'm trying to understand the reason for the fragmented approach here, because we've got this one application. Why is it that we split it? Why is it that before us today, at least, I understand for 2022, 2023, it was quite urgent, and we needed to finalize the new methodology at the time. And sorry about this. And now on this one, we are remaining with 2023-24 and 2024-25. Why are we not processing both those years today? What makes us to split this application that is before us? And obviously, by taking this fragmented approach, we will be faced with a challenge where the assumptions are not relevant anymore. Where the assumptions are not relevant anymore, and they will need to be revised. It means that the applicant will have to tamper with its original application because it is sitting before us and we keep on building on that application. And I don't understand why we are not just dealing with this application so that we can, we can provide predictability as well as certainty on the multi-year application that is before us. Again, perhaps the issues of process, regulatory process and legal processes, we can deal with them maybe in our governance meeting, but I'm just concerned here, at least on this aspect, as to why do we split the application that is before us? Because even if we say that we want to develop a new methodology so that for the 2024-25, we can then apply that methodology. I think that will also have some challenges, because how would we then apply a new methodology on an application that was submitted in 2021? Would that methodology apply retrospectively? So we are also going to deal with those challenges. So I really want to understand why are we approaching it in this manner. And then the third thing, Chairperson, that I would like to bring forth is the reason why we want to approve a consultation document, because it's not a decision, it's just a noting of the application that has been put before us and just put questions for stakeholders. And, generally what we do, we normally note, even when we have done some form of assessment, we note the discussion document because we just want stakeholders to engage meaningfully with that document. And in this case, we have not done much. So I will propose that perhaps we note it and then approve the publication of that consultation paper. And I think by noting, we will not be inconsistent with the section of the delegation matrix, section 2.1, which just says that the ELS must approve the development, review and approval of tariff methodologies. So here is just a consultation paper. So if we note, it will not be inconsistent with the mandate that is in that delegation matrix. And then, Chair, the other key point that I wanted to raise, I think some of the improvements on the document I forwarded them to Ms. Masike and Mr. Mavuso and Mr. Sichotlo. Right. Then, Chairperson, I just need clarification here on the 69 billion. I know that what's remaining now is 59 billion, but let's bring that properly where we mentioned the 59 billion. So I want to understand whether this is part of the application or we just add when we do the total of the amount that may need to be approved, the revenue amount that may need to be approved for Eskom, so that it is very clear we are not building on their application, but we just add the amount because of the court ruling. So I just wanted to understand that aspect. And there's mention about the assumptions that have changed, the revised assumptions. May we be clarified on that, particularly because this application has been with us for quite some time now. And we have taken more than a year to process this application, if one looks at the date on which it was lodged with NERSA. Now, obviously, if we take that long, it is inevitable that the assumptions will change. But if we had processed it as the multi-year application, we would have looked at all of those assumptions and make approvals that we want to make with all of the assumptions that were before us at the time. Now, the situation is that obviously Eskom will have to come back, because now we're treating this as a one-year application. Every year now we start a new application. So there is no way that they will leave the assumption as they are if they have an opportunity, because we're starting the process now. The question is whether then that would whether would that work against stakeholders, or it's giving one party some advantage of some sort. I would like to just understand the implications of that, and whether it will be right that the application that was before us in June last year, we keep on changing it even a year later, and we might even change it when we now deal with the year 2024, year 2025. So can we be told then about the scope of the assumptions that were revised, as well as the nature of the revisions, so that we can see how substantial are those revisions and the implications thereof of such revisions? Because then if that is the case, why do we still treat this one application received previously as that application, instead of just dealing with new application altogether? So I just want to understand the scope and the nature, so that we can see how substantial they are, and we can also ascertain whether this kind of process and fragmentation is working, and the disadvantages, if there are any. Chairperson, I would like to then go right to the end of paragraph 11 of the document, where we say that consumers will pay the true cost of supply. I disagree with this statement because it's not truthful. We have not even tested any sort of cost inefficiencies and prudency here. So we cannot say that these costs that are included in this application will mean that consumers, whatever they are being charged, and all of the other things that we may disallow, that now consumers will be asked to pay through cost. So I think we need to be careful of that statement. I thought I must raise it here. And Chairperson, lastly, in the end of this document, we on paragraph 16, and I assume that it's an error, where we say that this is the revenue application. The recommendation to the ALS is to approve the consultation paper for the revenue application for 2022. We are done with 2022. The decision was taken in February, March of this year. And then we are now looking at 2023, 2024. And then in 2024, 2025 is not before us, according to this summary here, that we are required to now just focus on a consultation paper that is focusing on 2023-2024. So those are the 2 years, Chairperson, for the recommendation and for the decision that is sought before us today. I believe then they are excluded. But my proposal would have been that we should include 2024, 2025, because I don't see any reason why it must be excluded for the reasons that I've stated earlier on. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Massetti. Mr. Mkiza?
Thank you, Chairperson. You just pardon me if I've got some intermittent connection. I'm in the office, but I'm struggling. I've now decided to use my own router to connect. I hope I'm audible.
Very audible, Mr. Mkiza.
Thank you very much, sir. Chairperson, I'd just like to point out that the purpose and the delegated authority is not necessarily talking to the purpose. So if you can just, if the team can just change that delegated authority to talk to the issue at hand, which is the noting of the consultation paper and the approval for the of the publication thereof, as well as then to the recommendation for it to be noted by ER as such. I would also like us to, I think it would help to include a table to clearly show the inclusion of this 69 billion, just how it is factored in, to make it easy for one to understand. Because, it should be clear, even on the court order. I'm not so sure whether it's because of the legalese or what. It appeared as if it's only applicable in 2022, 2023. I'm sorry, 2023, 24, 24, and not the other years, the way it is written. But maybe if they can just be clarified by way of a table, that will assist it, according to me. And then the issue of the 30 September date, that is in table 1. Excuse me. I think the approach that has been taken in this document has been the one of saying that there's an assumption that this date is achievable, and noting the time that we're in now with end of what was the end of July, and on of course August and so it's all in all it's 2 months full. But is this date achievable? If the date is, if we really look at it without really putting undue pressure, excuse me, Chairperson, and end up with a lot of question marks and challenges, let us consider the assumption of this methodology not being fully implementable by then, and then we process the 2 years, which is then the 2023-24 and 2024-25. Now, I think that might also give us a breathing space to look at the methodology with fresher eyes, and with the understanding that if there are certain things that are drastic and they need to be altered, maybe to look at that possibility rather. That would be my input. And then the other issue that is not so clear is looking, because I've struggled to get to the document itself, the consultation paper itself. I tried, but if in the consultation paper it can be clear as to what the decisions that are applicable now in the 2022-23 and the 2023-24, what decisions were taken and how then we build on that. For example, that decision that we took with regard to the RAB, and to be able to factor them in so that the questions are not like fresh, as if this is the first year of the 3 years that has been requested, because we are now in the second year of a 3-year application that was sent forth. For me, that would be important. And also, I appreciate that the application is in line with the judgments of the courts, but it's important to put it categorically that we had that this application has satisfied the minimum information requirements in terms of tariff applications. So I would appreciate that it come out very clear, so that no one can then raise issues later on as to whether there are certain gaps here that will make this application difficult or impossible to process. That would be my input, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Those are the questions, team, that we need to respond to. I thought I would assist with some, Ms. Masike, at some point, but I'd rather put it back to you first. I will add where you need me to assist, especially in respect of the of why consider 1 year and not both years. I may be able to assist with that. But can I give it back to you? Maybe can I give it back to the team? Madam Masike, you can, I know in the absence of Mr. Murati, it's a bit of a challenge on the legal issues, but Madam Dlamini is here, as indicated. Can I, I see Mr. Sichotlo's hand is up. Perhaps he may want to start first and assist you, Madam Masike. Mr. Sichotlo, over to you, sir.
I don't really want to start before Ms. Masike, but I just wanted to really talk about one issue. The one that was raised by Ms. Maseti about the changing assumptions. I think, Chairperson, this is not a new thing in terms of how we do ESCOM's applications. Remember, ESCOM's applications normally they would take about 6 months at the time that they draft their application, because they also have to go through SALGA, they have to go through the National Treasury and all of that. But during the time of consultation, we also consult with ESCOM to say that, especially with regard to the sales, we also go back to them and say, ESCOM, can you relook at your sales and then come back to us? So we are still going to be doing that in terms of the changing assumptions. So I know this time it will be a longer horizon compared to the previous times, because this one is more than a year, and the others was about 6 months. So we will definitely be consulting with ESCOM, and we will obviously also be looking at our own other sources like the State SA, the Reserve Bank, and everyone to make sure that the assumptions that are included in this application are still true to the day that these assumptions were made. And then, Chairperson, there was also, I think, the other parts I just really need to assist Ms. Maseke, in terms of the things that are for also, so she doesn't have to repeat the things that are more of enhancement. For instance, Mr. Mkhize asked that we do a table that would include the impact of the total impact of the 69 billion or 59 billion in this case. And then there was also a correction that I think Ms. Maseti talked about the true cost of supply. So we'll just do those corrections. But Chairperson, I'm not sure, as you said, you maybe want to assist us, or maybe the legal guys can assist us with the 59 billion. But the rest, I think Ms. Masike and Mr. Ntakeni can assist us in terms of achieving that. But the big one, Chairperson, and I'm glad that you actually volunteered that you are going to assist us, was with the guy with regard to the 1 year application versus us looking at the entire 2 years of the remaining MYPD 5. Thanks, Chair. I think I'll stop there. But I think the colleagues can actually go into the technical matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sichotlo. And can I fill in the gaps? So, Madam Masike, if we can, and Mr. Ntakeni, if we can, Madam Masike, over to you. If you can answer the remaining questions, and whichever ones that you would want me to assist with, I will definitely do that at the end. Madam Masike.
Thank you, Chair. I would actually like you to assist with the clarification of the High Court process. Why the need to indicate that the application is dealt with because of the High Court finding. I would also like assistance on the reasons for the fragmentation or fragmented approach. Why are we not processing year 2 and year 3 together? The other question was noting the consultation paper and approving the publication. Ms. Maseti, is we will change the recommendation to read as such. And the 59 billion, Mr. Gumede will also then assist. The assumptions Brian has dealt with, and also 11.1 on the cost of supply, we will review the document. The 16.1.2, where Ms. Maseti was questioning January 2022, is the date when the actual revised submissions were sent. So it's not about the application being sent. And the reason also why we are publishing the recommendation number 1 is talking about 3 years, is that the application was lumped together. So we are publishing it. We know that we've processed year 1, and we are only seeking for permission to process year 2 in line with the court order. And 2024-25 will be decided on later. So we can't separate 23-24 and just publish 1 year. The application is lumped together. It's a 3-year application. And then Mr. Mkhize's question on the delegation matrix, we will correct. The table Brian has already spoken about, the table on the 69 billion and the impact of the decision will also be dealt with. And Mr. Gumede, I'm also going to ask you to respond to Mr. Mkhize's question, whether we are going to be able to achieve the 30th of September in terms of the EPDM. And the MERTA part, we will enhance the document. And yeah, I think that's it. The consultation paper should also include previous decision. We will also enhance the consultation paper to indicate the previous decisions and the impact thereof. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Masike. Mr. Ntakeni, do you want to add anything before I fill in the gaps? Looks like you want me to fill most of the questions, the difficult ones.
No, it's fine, Chairperson. Ms. Masike has covered most of it. Thank you.
All right, no, thank you. I think for me, members, there are two broad category of questions. The first one is why deal with this application piecemeal? I guess the issue here was a simple one, that our starting point last year was that MYPD4 was not applicable to, should not actually be used for MYPD5 processes because of a number of reasons. that have been explained on a number of platforms, and that ideally we should actually be moving into a new approach with not with a total implementation, which was never done before, but with interim approaches that we use, that we have a general thrust in terms of directionally where we might be going in terms of the methodology, but then to recognize that there will be a transition process. We set up the process in terms of transition, but in line with the new thinking going forward. That was the general thrust. The court rightfully disagreed, said until you have that methodology clearly articulated, it would be unfair to ask Eskom to put any application in respect of that. And hence why the decision was firstly for the year one, that at least for year one, the interdict says use the MYPD4 methodology. And then Part B was going to then be considered, but Part B always relied on actually having a methodology working, which we clearly know the methodology has not been not working, but the methodology approved. We know that the methodology has not been approved. So hence, in discussions between ourselves and Eskom, the agreement was that it makes a lot of sense that at least for the second year of the MYPD5 process, that the same methodology be used. However, if the new methodology has not actually been approved by 30th of September, then the MYPD4 methodology will still apply. That was actually given as a court order, which court order is attached to this application. So that's why the importance of that. But there's a deadline that says even for the year 24-25, if and this is something that will need to be submitted in June next year, is that if the general thrust of the methodology has not been approved by the 30th of September, it will make it impossible for Eskom to even begin, whether it's on an interim basis or on a long-term basis, to even consider incorporating in its application some aspects of the new methodology. And therefore, that's why the deadline is the 30th. But if by the 30th of September, the methodology has not been approved by the ER, clearly, then even the outer year, 24-25, will then be considered using MYPD4. Is this optimal? The answer to that, it is not. But at the same time, it's in recognition of the fact that, as even indicated by the president yesterday, our space has changed. 2024 or year 2025, going into year 2024 is 2022 now, going into year 2024-25, using assumptions made in 2016 might not be appropriate. However, if NESA has failed to give directionally and approve a methodology that might be closer to the realities that we face, well, then that old methodology will still need to carry on. So that is the basis, honestly. So unfortunately, we have a court order that actually captures it exactly that says, is it optimal to actually treat a multi-application piecemeal 1 year like we did last year and then we're doing this year? The answer to that, no, it is not. But it is also optimal to continue with assumptions made in 2016 as underpinning the world that's going to go on in 2024. The answer to that is also not, but it's really a compromise. Members can agree or disagree, and we will actually just vote accordingly. So that is in the basis of the methodology that says The reason why we're only considering 1 year is because in terms of the settlement order, we then said we're only going to consider the 1 year. But if the methodology has then been approved this year, it gives stakeholders over a year to be able to know what the future approach would look like and accordingly change their submission for the year 2024-25. I see the hands are up as follow-up. Says here, Madam Maseti, you are number one, but I thought Mr. Mkiza came first, but Madam Maseti first. Follow-up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kumete. Like I said, Chairperson, we will have our discussion on the, just to have a sort of a debriefing at some point on the processes and the precedents set in terms of processing this particular multi-year application, which we then split it into an individual year. I think also, I mean, there's a number of things that one would be concerned about, apart from the fact that obviously the industry will need certainty, it will need predictability. But I think from our side, I don't think it's also an optimal way of doing it. And there could also be significant cost savings because now we take each application and we conduct public hearings. There's time that is spent and a whole lot of other things. But I think in a governance meeting, we can be able to delve on these things. But I think of critical importance for me, at least, was to understand why we exclude 2024, 2025, especially because we do not have a new methodology. So if our argument is that the existing methodology is still valid and legally valid, why can't we process this multi-year that is before us using that methodology? And what is the reason for not including 2024 if we don't even have a new methodology for considering 2024, 2025? Aren't we putting ourselves in the same challenge that we faced in December 2021 when we had this adverse court ruling? So for me, really, it is that particular issue that is of critical importance. And I'm wondering why we delay that particular application, because it will mean that we stayed with this application received in June 2021 for almost 2 years with us. And I'm wondering if that is the way we want to process these kind of multi-year applications as an organization. So those are the two things for me, Mr. Kumete, that I thought maybe let's clarify them and understand exactly the legal process, and so that stakeholders understand exactly how NERSA is now proceeding and what approach does it take when it processes multi-year price determination. So that is the reason I asked that question. And then the other thing, Mr. Kumete, if you allow me just a quick one, is I'm looking at the schedule of public hearings that we have included in this document. We will hold physical hearings in Cape Town as well as KwaZulu-Natal. With all of the other provinces, it will be virtual. I wanted to understand what informed that kind of approach, and will that approach not attract, undue criticism on NERSA? I mean, what are the bases, and why is it not even optional? What if other stakeholders in other provinces, they are so much interested in this application, and they would like to attend physically, or even some of them might even be excluded because they might not have access, to these media platforms that we connect to. As we know that this is always a question or a concern that is raised by members of the public whenever we consult with them. So I thought, let me just find out what informed that approach, especially if we know that kind of approach could attract criticism, a harsh criticism against NERSA. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Maseti. Mr. Mkhize, if you just allow me, can I just respond to the first question, because I think it may link, it is a follow-up. The first two questions. I mean, for me, the issue is simple. Is this optimal, splitting the application into three? The answer to that, it is not. I don't think anybody can argue against that and indicate that it is optimal. It is not. However, if we're to include 24-25, and if the EPDM, the electricity pricing determination methodology, is approved in September for implementation in 2024, not 2023. 2023, definitely, that's why we are consulting in 2023. But if it's going to be implemented from 2024, is that our decisions are binding on us. We can't change them. So once we have a decision for 24-25, that decision that we would have made would be binding on the industry. Whether that makes sense going in 2024 going forward or not, we would not have an opportunity to change it, unless, of course, somebody takes us to court and have our decision reviewed. So where it's the issue of functus officio that is the challenge. So if we handle both years, and in our wisdom, we then decide in September of 2022 and approve the methodology, which would apply in 2024, not in 2023, remember, this needs to be reiterated. If it applies from 2024, but we already have a decision for 24-25, we cannot change that decision. So it means, even if there are aspects, because remember the interim solution would allow to say which of the aspects of the EPDM can be incorporated in the meantime as a transitional element. That might be how 24-25 might be dealt with, taking into account all the changes that would have happened in the prevailing period. Because we'll have a decision, it would be functus officio driven. We cannot change our own decision. I'm hoping that makes sense. But the colleagues will answer to your last question, Madam Maseti. Mr. Mkhize, I just want to let me respond to that question, because maybe your question could also be linked to that, or your follow-up question, Mr. Mkhize.
Yes, thanks, Chairperson. I'm glad that you said that we will any event vote on that. I don't also want to delay the meeting so that we can move towards a decision and vote, and then, because I consider the other matters to be more of operational nature. You know, the challenges that we have had with hybrid meetings, where maybe it's still best to have NERSA being at the venue, all of NERSA, the panelists, and then we have may have then the virtual linking. Those are some of the things, but I consider them to be more of I would say operational nature. Now, when it comes to the issue of the 2024-25 financial year part of the application, you know, for me, this is because it won't be contradictory to the court ruling. It's also not contradictory to proper risk management. I take it, let's just deal with it from a risk management perspective. I would rather have the two dealt with simultaneously, with the proviso that the last one will be dropped if the methodology is adopted, approved timelessly and well honed for the licensee or licensees to be able to use. I think for me, the key will be considering the legal standing of the methodology, in the sense that in engaging with the licensee, one will be able to see what has really changed and be able to make those adjustments where we choose to depart from the methodology. Because even the ruling is clear that where we depart, there must be proper consultation and not just willy-nilly pick and choose which aspect we want to stick to and which we want to move away from. So I would say from a proper risk mitigation, considering all other factors and also the stance that would still have a chance to switch over to the new methodology if need be before we get into the decision, or it is as just pure risk management that we proceed with the two, subject to the methodology being approved and well entrenched on time for it to be used. I will leave it at that, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. If I can maybe just clarify if I hear you. So what you're saying is that the consultation should be, we consult on both years, 23-24, as well as financial year 24-25. That's the first one. However, we will then make a decision if the methodology has not been approved by the 30th of September, then the decision that will be made in November in terms of the proposed timeline, that decision will then be a decision for the 2 years. However, if the decision have been made in terms of the new methodology on the 30th of September, then the decision will then be, although the consultation have been for 2 years, the decision could well be for 1 year. Can I just hear if I'm actually hearing it correct? Is that what you are proposing?
That's my proposal, to say process both years, subject to the approval of the methodology and the readiness of implementation, instead of the other way around. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Maseti, sorry, there's a quick follow-up again. I note your comment. If you want to follow up.
Yes, Chair. Chairperson, I think I'm troubled by this approach of splitting the application. And even if I'm trying to also consider the proposal of, because I must state that my view is that we should consult on both years, because that is the application that is before us, and not split parts of the application. I don't think that it is neat. And also maybe we should also just check sometimes on the courts when there are various aspects of the matter that is before the court. And when you now have to take a decision or a ruling on one matter and then postpone the other and all of that, it just doesn't look good, and especially when it comes to public funds and the way that we exercise our discretion on these kind of matters, and where we know that there will be financial implications. But apart from that, at least from our perspective, it is also because the issue of multi-year, it is one that also affords stakeholders and these big industrial customers to have a better understanding of how the tariff is going to impact them and also do their planning very well. So to single it out, it doesn't provide the predictability that is required. It doesn't provide the regulatory certainty that is required. That is my worry. Instead, it also add a lot of uncertainties, and now also allow a process not to be so neat, because the application must be changed and add certain particulars, and it's no more that original application that we received in June 2021. But there are two things that trouble me, Chairperson, with the approach. Firstly, I am not clarified as to the new methodology that we envisage, as we take a decision, because we have got an application before us today, we don't know the future methodology, how it's going to look like. Aren't we taking ourselves back to the situation we were in September 2021? If we're now saying that we will exercise our discretion and decide or elect to delay parts of this application until we come up with the methodology and allow the process to unfold of coming up with that methodology. And when we finalize that process of the methodology, then we apply it to parts of the application that was already before us. So for me, I have a problem with that, and I want maybe to be clarified on the issue of retrospective application of the methodology in this case, because the application has been before us since June 2021, and aren't we taking ourselves back? And then the second thing that I'm also worried about, if we consult on both years and then maybe not take a decision on the 2024-2025, and then we say, well, the new methodology has now been completed and approved, and therefore let's rather apply it now to the 2024-2025. That again, remember, because we consulted on this application 2024-25 using the existing methodology, we may be required again to subject that part of the application to a statutory consultation in terms of Section 10, now using the new methodology. So I'm not sure if we can duplicate those processes if we consult on it using this methodology and consult again on 2024-25 using the new methodology. I'm just worried about this kind of processes, Chairperson. And again, if we delay the decision after we have consulted on 2024-2025 revenue, if we delay our decision, what will be the reason that will be legally justified if we do so? That will be my worry. Will we now say, no, we will not take a decision. We'll subject that revenue application for 2024-2025 to the new methodology. That's why we're not taking a decision. I'm just worried. What will be our reasons? And again, let's think about the issue of limitation on the on completed proceedings. To again relook into the matter, which is substantially the same and subjected to also administrative process. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Again, there is a proposal by Mr. Mkhize, and I think what he's requesting is that we put it to a vote, which I would not necessarily object to putting it. There is a proposal before us. So we could put it to a vote and see whether if it fails or not. If it does not, if it carries, then we can take those discussions that I think outside of this public forum in terms of convincing each other, I guess, in terms of what would work. So I would not be opposing. There is a proposal, I think, on the table by Mr. Mkhize, which is one that says consult on both years, but make it and subject to whether, because remember, colleagues, there is a court order. This issue that we are dealing with are actually captured in the court order. The court order is very clear, is that we've agreed that for the financial year 23-24, that we'll use the MYPD, the 2016 MYPD 4 approach. But for the outlying year, is that in terms of making a decision, we could actually, if the methodology has not been approved, which, as you know, I would assume that members would recall that the approach going forward is one that departs from the revenue methodology to a tariff approach, is that therefore those two are substantially different. and therefore, but if that has been approved at the appropriate time, although you may have consulted on this, but because it's now been approved in accordance with the court order, you do not have to make a decision using the MYPD. You're using the MYPD format. But if it has not been approved, then it is quite clear that you would have consulted on both years. And as Mr. Mkhize puts it, it's a risk mitigation approach that says you'd have consulted in 2 years and your methodology is not approved by the 30th of September, in which case, when you do make a decision in November, that decision you already know whether there's a decision or not, and therefore you just go through. Mr. Chokwe, would you want to add on to this? Because that is the proposal by Mr. Mkhize, and I'd like to put it to a vote.
Chairperson, good morning again. Before you put it to a vote, Chairperson, I think the members are just far apart from each other, Chairperson. We are feeling a little uncomfortable for them to get into a vote. What would prefer, Chairperson, would be maybe if it was possible, we could actually close the meeting temporarily. Members have to try to reach to each other before they put it to a vote, because there are just so many issues, Chairperson. There are governance issues that we would want to advise on. There are many other issues. We wouldn't just be happy for members to just vote and run with it. We know we have members of the public in the meeting, but this committee has the right to actually go outside of the meeting and try to reach each other and see what to do before they can put it to a vote, Chairperson. Thanks.
Thank you very much for the guidance, Mr. Chokwe. And members, can I request that on this issue, it's whether we are considering 1 year or 2 years, can we then decide, can we then agree to caucus? If we can then perhaps then close the meeting and allow the members to caucus on this. How would we go about that, Mr. Chokwe? We'll just close the meeting in respect of the live streaming and whoever else might be who have joined from the outside. If there's anybody that is on the platform, that we actually ask them to recuse themselves, so you don't put anything on the chat, or would you suggest we have a different link? How would you suggest?
Chairperson, I would prefer a different link and let this meeting just be adjourned. Let's not release members of the public who might be in the meeting. The ER go on their own link and actually try to sort out things, and they'll come back to this meeting. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you. Can we then be assisted, please, by RSU? Can we then close the meeting temporarily? And so the meeting is adjourned for now. We will then reconvene. Can we say we will reconvene, give ourselves half an hour? We will reconvene this meeting at 11. So from 10:30 until 11, the members will then caucus on this and then come back and we'll reconvene the meeting again at 11. Would that be in order? And can I get RSU to kindly provide us a link, a separate link for the members to caucus?
Sorry, Chair, if you allow me.
Yes. Please go ahead, Mrs. Shotlo.
Yeah, Chair, I'm worried because of the challenges we had in terms of joining the meeting at the beginning. We might also have the same kind of challenges that we had at the beginning. My suggestion would be that if Ucheral can actually not stream us and then you will stream us afterwards. But for us to have another link, it might be a challenge in terms of coming back or even going to that other link at this moment. We've had technical challenges, we've seen that. So yeah, I'd really be very worried if we close it totally.
Thank you, Mr. Chotlo. Mr. Dlamini, any proposal from the side? You agree with Mr. Chotlo?
Yes, I do concur with Mr. Chotlo, sir, because my emails have still not opened since last night, sir. So I wouldn't even be able to create the link that the members have requested. So yeah, the technical challenges are still upon us, sir.
Okay. Can we then kindly request Mr. Mateja to stop the live streaming, and also if there are any members of the public that have physically joined on this link to also be asked to recuse themselves, and then we can continue. Can we do that, please? And then we'll open again at 11. I do understand the issue.